So I'm sitting here with the Fuji GFX50sii and the Nikon Z8. These are both my cameras. I shoot with them professionally. And I just wanted to talk about differences between the two, and similarities, I guess, between the two, and why I would have two 50-megapixel cameras sort of at my disposal. And I was, as I was thinking about this video and as I was writing my script, one of the things, is actually really interesting because today the Nikon Z6 III has been announced. And the amount of discussion about the minutia of different frame rates and different autofocus and how much faster and how stacked the sensor is and all this kind of stuff, I think really, really detracts from, and is, in many cases, I think people, use it as a bit of a foil to not have to discuss about the fact that they actually want to take photos with these cameras. And I think that there's an expectation that somehow, if you have something that's more technologically advanced, you're going to get better photographs. And I can see how you don't want to miss good images because you can't focus quickly or because you can't process things quickly or something like that. But really, when it comes down to it, I think that everybody struggles with the notion, or let me rephrase that, I think many people struggle with the notion that it's really not about the camera. So with that said, I'd like to sort of talk a little bit about these two cameras and why I have them in my bag. So the cameras are similar, but also quite different. Couple of things. First of all, I don't shoot video with, we do shoot video obviously because we're doing it right now, but I don't shoot video very much with these cameras. So I'm not really going to talk about the video capabilities of these cameras. But I've shot with Nikons for like the last 30 years. I've only ever shot with Nikons for my DSLRs or 35mm camera, except for Fuji. But so I don't even know how to turn on a Sony or a Canon camera. And the Fuji I've had for, several years now. The 50S2 is new to me, but not that new. So there's some overlap with the cameras. Strangely, actually, not a ton, but a fair amount. Both are about 50 megapixels. Both are surprisingly actually about the same size. I thought to myself that the Fuji was going to be a lot bigger than the Nikon, but then actually when I looked it up, the bodies weigh the same. The lenses, though, are quite a bit bigger. 45 to 100. 24 to 70, and I think that this is bigger. Both of them have full line lenses. You could argue that the Nikon needs more 1.4 and 1.2 glass, but I'm not fussy. I do think I'm going to buy the 50-1.8 and the 85-1.8 for the Nikon just to have them in my bag. The Fuji lenses are more expensive, definitely, but then the Nikon lenses get really pricey as well. Both have impossibly annoying menu systems. The Fuji because they put it in strange places, put stuff in strange places. The Nikon because there's just so much stuff in this camera. The menus go on forever. There's 950 pages in the manual. It's just crazy how much junk there is in there. But differences between the cameras. The Nikon camera has an XQD card, or CF Express, and then there's the SD. Not, kind of annoying because you actually need two different readers, but really helpful because these are blazing fast and really rather robust. Really rather robust. The only drawback is they can get hot in warm weather, and I just had a warm card warning go on in my viewfinder recently when I was out shooting, which is kind of a pain. Fuji has two SD cards, which is actually really kind of frustrating. I don't like SD cards. It would be really nice if they had a CF Express card in there or an XQD card or something other than that. They didn't include one. So the solution to not having, or I guess the solution to having two flimsy SD cards in the Fuji is you get the Sony Tough cards, or the Sony Tough like that. There we go. These are great cards. They're really nice, but they still don't replace having it's bigger, it's more durable. I just like these much better. Major difference between the two cameras is AF speed. This is way faster than this. This is just it's just slow. I've never tried to shoot sports with either of these cameras. I'm fairly confident it wouldn't be very good with the Fuji. Now that said though, like the AF is slow, but it's not it's not bad. It's just slow. The other thing about this is like the Z8 still feels kind of buggy. It's really for instance while I was shooting. And I was tethered. The tether cable bumped up against the AF button at the bottom of the camera, and then when I was trying to change the aperture, which then of course changed the AF, something about the AF zone. So I had a vertical AF zone in the viewfinder, which was no big deal, but you just get a new red box in your viewfinder, which was kind of strange. But then I couldn't, so I turned the AF back just to auto, but the box remained, and it was really weird. And then I was kind of stuck. I'm like, well, you know, and so anyway, so I reset the camera, and of course, or not even reset the camera, turned it off, unplugged it, plugged it back in, and the box was gone. But it was just like it feels like it's just, you know, there's some flaky stuff in this camera. So regardless, tethering is a Fuji advantage for sure. And another difference between the two cameras that, you know, that no one really seems to talk about is actually the ratio of the frame. I mean, the Nikon is a traditional 35mm 3:2 ratio, and the Fuji is a 4:3 ratio, which is more like a 6:7 negative or a 4:5 negative, which I like a lot, a lot. It sounds kind of stupid because, yes, of course, you could just crop this to 8:10 and there's no problem. But I just love native 3:4 shooting. You know, the Nikon, quick portraits, low light, AF, it's all Nikon. If I have a bit more time, then it's the Fuji. If I can rationalize the Fuji, I'll happily take it. I find Fuji's color science is more to my liking, as well as their exposures seem to be more spot on the money than, or spot on, or on the money, than Nikon. It feels like there's two teams working on the Fuji lenses. The one team does the zoom lenses and make them super clinical sharp, you know, just like wow, what you want to do with this lens is you want to, you know, knock some of the sharpness off. And then the other team works on the 110 f2 or the 85 1.7 or the 55 1.7, and they've got way more mojo. You know, anyway, it's interesting how, I mean, definitely one of the nicest lenses made today by any manufacturer for any camera is that 110 f2. And I will happily put that up against any other lens. It is an amazing lens. And it's not amazing because it's sharp. It's amazing because it's unbelievably beautiful. And, you know, I mean, and the Nikon lenses are, it's just, you know, like I've said this before, one of the things, the difference between these two cameras really is that this camera was made to be the best possible camera, and it is filled with the most technologically advanced, and it is the sharpest, it is the, you know, it is the brightest, it is the this, it is that. And this camera, it feels like wanted to build a camera that was really beautiful, or, you know, with lenses that were beautiful. Like it just, this is more photography, this is more technology. And I struggle, you know, I don't really, well, I struggle, but it's funny because I, you know, I spent a lot of time wishing this camera had fewer megapixels, because what I use it for, I don't want 50 megapixels, because if I want 50 megapixels, I use this camera, because this camera is so much nicer. And when it comes right down to it, although the Nikon is no slouch, and although I, you know, use it all the time, given the opportunity, if someone asked me which camera would you take every single time without question, if I was going to go for, if I was going to go on vacation with my family, if I was going to go out for a walk in the woods or something like that, without question, every time I would take the Fuji. Just wouldn't even give it a second thought. And because I look at the photos off the Nikon and I say, and I look off the photos off the Fuji, especially with one of those prime lenses, and I go, wow. That's really nice. And I mean, really what it comes down to is I'm willing to sacrifice, or I'm willing to suffer with the, you know, the slow and the clunky and the, you know, I mean, whatever. I mean, just like all the slow and the clunkiness and the, you know, the SD cards in the Fuji, because I think it's worth it in terms of the images. And although I own the Nikon, I use the Nikon. In fact, in all likelihood, I use the Nikon more than I use the Fuji. And that's just kind of how it is. I prefer the Fuji, but the Nikon probably earns me more money. So there you go. Thanks for watching.